City, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. These are their stories.
Hey guys, welcome to Munch My Benson. My name's Adam. Of course, I'm here in Albuquerque, and I'm not only joined on the line by Josh, but today we have a very special guest. So, Josh, you want to introduce our guest?
Sure, yeah. In a break from our regularly scheduled programming, we're joined today by Michelangelo Milano, who our audience would know from his turn as Patrick Binder, not Bender, Brandy's boyfriend in Possessed, one of the two illustrious episodes of SVU.
Larissa's boyfriend.
I know, but they're going to remember her as Brandy more than Larissa. Sorry, I dead named her or whatever, um, but one of the two episodes of SVU to receive a perfect 10 out of 10 from our patent pending 4 criteria 10-point scale, and which we will be dropping into the main feed in conjunction with this episode.
Yeah.
While it's safe
too.
Yes.
This episode is so good.
I just watched it again and it was gold. Yeah. It was so fucking fun to watch it again. Michelangelo, thank you for joining us.
Yes,
thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be in such a wild, crazy, bonkers episode. I rewatched it myself and wow.
Yeah, it's
wow.
It horrible. Fucking goes there.
Horrible in its subject matter.
Back.
Yes. Now, while it's safe to assume much of this chat will revolve around acting, we're not defined solely by our occupations. Michelangelo, what do you have going on right now?
I have a podcast myself called The Return Slot of Horror. You can check us out on Instagram at the Return Slot _ of Horror Pod, or our YouTube channel at the Return Slot of Horror Podcast, or just listen anywhere you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, all that jazz. And we are obsessed with horror films. And we hang out in the basement of our video store that we own and operate, and we talk about these horror films. And I will warn you, I mean, and I kind of feel like this is your vibe here too, is like it's really just as much about us and like how those movies reflect our experiences and our like how we view life. Like it's like you're gonna be listening to people hanging out, having a drink, and talking about horror movies that they love.
Nice.
Yeah. I saw you guys did Cruising recently.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Technically not a horror film, but I got it in there. You got some slasher in there. It's
awesome.
It must be the story behind Cruising is a fascinating and wild one. I highly recommend people read William Friedkin's autobiography, and they watched a documentary on Cruising. Check out our episode on it. It's a wild story.
Oh, this is a totally different Cruising than the one I thought you were doing. I thought you were doing the Huey Lewis as Gwyneth Paltrow's dad, where they do karaoke together.
Dude, isn't that Sliding Doors?
No, Sliding Doors is a different Gwyneth Paltrow movie.
But that movie's not called Cruising, though. Is
it's not. I don't think it's called Cruising. I think
they just sing Cruising.
They're sing Cruising.
I think they sing Cruising, but I don't think that it's called Cruising.
It's a movie with, like, I know Paul Giamatti, I think, is in it. It's about karaoke. It's about karaoke, and it's almost anthology, maybe. In that it's these different anyways. Yeah, whatever that movie is called.
That's way off track, Adam. Now, have you ever read the oral history of the making of The Warriors? Because when they're shooting The Warriors, Cruising is shooting in New York too at the same time. There's one crazy night where like there's like a gang fight that like breaks out basically between the two shoots that are happening or some shit. But the oral history of the making of The Warriors is fucking fascinating too.
I just bought the book. Great. I just bought the book that the movie is based off of. It's a great New York summer read, and
nice.
I can't imagine, like, because I know they had gangs that they were having to pay off, right, for protection, plus the mob, and then dealing with the people boycotting,
cruising, and because as you can imagine, all of the guys in the Warriors outfits are getting pegged as being guys that are in cruising.
Yeah.
So they're getting hit with protests because all the protesters think that cruising, or that the Warriors is cruising.
Yeah.
So like there's this crazy but both of those shoots happening at the same time in New York is kind of like, I think Adam and my ideal vision of what New York would be
Night
like.
of the Juggler or Wolfen. One other movie that we've seen that we really, really liked was shooting at the same time.
Night of the Juggler was at the same time, I believe.
Yeah. I think
Wolfen.
Night of the Juggler.
Oh man.
Oh dude.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's like fucking amazing.
Wildly racist.
Yeah, but basically James Brolin is he's a truck driver whose daughter gets kidnapped, and he has to go on this like rampage across the gritty New York City from the 70s.
Much of this rampage happening on foot.
Yeah, on foot in
he is running almost this entire movie.
He's in like brothels in Times Square. They're going through like shooting on location in the rubble of the South Bronx. It's fucking awesome. The sad thing is it's impossible to get a decent print of it because of dumb contractual things. So there's a version on YouTube that is it's like a VHS copy that got uploaded. So especially when it gets to later scenes where they're in the tunnels below Central Park, you can't tell what's going on at all. But otherwise it's
still worth it. Still worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And occasionally you'll see screenings of it. Basically, the home video rights got like sucked into like bankruptcy void. So no one can buy the rights to it because the company doesn't exist anymore. It's like a fucking refrigerator company or something. Tarantino
owns the copy or somewhere.
Yeah.
Has
he talked about it on his podcast?
Good question.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I have to suss this out. And speaking of
fantastic.
Speaking of the Warriors, David Patrick Kelly.
Oh yeah,
David Patrick Kelly. You didn't get to have a scene with him because
he's on unfortunately fire did not. I've seen him around for years because I go to the theater a lot, and if you live in New York and you go to the theater, you're either going to see him in a play or you're going to see him in the audience watching a play.
Oh, cool.
He has been around forever.
He's like a real theater head.
He is absolutely a theater guy, and like he is wild in this episode, and he he makes big bold choices. Him and Devin Rattray.
Devin Rattray. You did get up close and personal with Devin Rattray.
Yes, I did. I got to meet him. I got to work with Tim. He was awesome. Yeah. He was just hanging out like that.
We've got tons of questions about this.
Yeah.
But let's talk about just you for a little bit.
Okay.
Just so we're not burning through that. So what I can gather on the internet, or from what I can gather on the internet, you look to have been born in Chicago and mostly raised in KC, Kansas City.
Yeah, that's correct.
What took your family to KC?
So my father is an immigrant from Sicily.
Okay.
And came to the country, and his family's plan was to work for a year and then go back to Sicily because his father, the job that he had was the type of job where it's like, well, the city doesn't have any money to pay you this year.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So you come to America, you work for a year, you live like a king. So he made the mistake of falling in love with my mother, a wonderful mistake, and stayed. And there's this huge Sicilian immigration in both Chicago and in Kansas City.
Okay.
For some reason. It has something to do with the mafia and the factories.
Organized
and
crime
like that.
Organized crime had a pretty big hold of Kansas City.
KC has that reputation.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's like Kansas City. When people hear I'm from Kansas City, they just assume I'm from Brooklyn or something. I've lost a lot of my like Italian dialect, but like there are a lot of guys like my brothers. There's all these kids who have never left Missouri in their life, but they look and they sound like they're from Brooklyn.
Okay, right.
Well,
so, I mean, if that's a community you grow up in, you just kind of talk like that.
Yeah, I remember I had a friend from came to visit my house like in high school, and he he was like, oh, I get you a little more now, because like
Okay.
you walk into my house and you're not in Kansas City, you're just in like this Italian house,
You're in
Yeah.
Palermo.
you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's loud, and there's like a grandma in the corner yelling at you, right?
My
Yeah.
my nanny literally lived
Yeah.
down the street from us.
Okay,
It
okay.
was
Nice, nice,
wonderful, and spent the weekends at the house, and
nice.
yeah, she yeah, yelling at me with a
Was
broom in her hand.
was this your mother's family, or did some of your dad's family come back too?
So this was my mother's side. My
Okay.
father's side all moved back to Sicily, and
Okay.
unfortunately, his father passed when I was about one.
Mhm.
So I never
Yeah.
got to know him. And my mother's father also passed when she was a little kid. He was
Okay.
a semi-famous jazz musician in Chicago
Oh,
who
nice.
Okay.
unfortunately died like in his like late 30s or early 40s from a brain tumor.
Okay.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Not the reason that a jazz musician usually dies at that age.
Hey, that's what they die when they're 27 when that happens.
Yeah,
So
sure.
he tried to go straight
Uh-huh.
when he got married and couldn't hack it. Like he tried all sorts of different type of straight time jobs, but just
Yeah.
like, he was just he on his albums he played all the instruments himself. He
Okay.
was kind of a
Nice.
virtuoso, real interesting person.
Yeah.
And it's wild to me that out of me and all my siblings, and now I have I have 10 nieces and nephews. Out of all of this group of people, none of us have any music ability whatsoever. You would think someone would
Yeah.
be able to play the piano.
There'd be
And
some
this guy,
savant.
Yeah.
yeah, but no. I guess I'm waiting for the next generation to see what happens there.
What's
Is this
his
stuff
name?
available?
Yeah.
His name, Vic Scatia, and I don't think you can
Okay.
find it anywhere. It was
Okay.
like we had some records in the house, obviously from when he was around. I don't think you could.
Was it
I
a
really,
regional label, or was it
I don't. I
was it like
couldn't tell you
Decca or
the.
something?
I
Yeah.
imagine it was just
Okay.
a regional label. When I
Okay.
was when I was in middle school, as a birthday gift to my mother, I transferred it all to CDs. But I really
Okay.
don't think they exist outside of
Yeah.
our house. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I'll be on the lookout for it. My day job is oftentimes digging through crates of old records that nobody's gone through in
Yes.
like decades.
What is your
So
day job? What is
I
this?
work for an estate sale company, so
Okay.
I get to go like spelunking in people's like weird
Yeah.
histories, which is fun.
This being Adam's like dream job, basically.
Kind of, yeah. I just need to solve crimes while I'm doing this. So I'll
Yeah.
have to figure out how that works,
Yeah.
Turn it into a British mystery.
You get
Um,
solve cold cases.
there you
Mhm.
go.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right.
Through
About
these
record
treasures.
collections.
Yeah.
Generally it's Christmas decoration collections. That's
Sure.
usually what I'm going through.
Yeah.
Do you ever find I'm obsessed with Halloween? I love Halloween. Do you find some really amazing vintage turn of the century
So I
Halloween
haven't
decorations?
found so I haven't found any cool old Halloween decorations. Now we just closed out we did the show like
He
we
can't
were
he
we
can't
were
say what the name of
selling
the
off
show
the
is.
show.
Yeah.
It was a children's show that shot here for 3 years, and they had like two warehouses full of utter crap that we had to sell off, and they had they did a Halloween special movie for this children's show, and so they had so much, like I had to throw away like 10 room-sized spiders, and we actually were able to sell two 20-foot tall jack-o'-lanterns that are now at a cannabis dispensary in the North Valley here in town.
Of course.
So it's like,
Of
why?
course.
It's not Halloween themed at all.
That seems like a smart buy for that business.
Exactly right. I wonder what they were doing before they came to the sale that day.
Now, did you grow up in Kansas City proper,
Yes.
or were you in like Blue Springs or Independence or something?
I was in Kansas City proper.
Okay.
Nice.
North
And Missouri
Kansas
side of the
City.
border. Yeah.
Missouri side of the border. Yeah.
So I'm pretty familiar with KC, but I didn't grow
Yeah.
up there. it seems kind of isolated to me from places from whence there's a pipeline to Hollywood or Broadway. Do you know what it was that sent you down a path of pursuing life in the arts?
It's literally the only thing that I could ever like I was constantly in trouble. I'm dyslexic. I have a host of learning disabilities, and
Uh-huh.
because my father was working, he was a butcher, and like he worked uh nighttime jobs as a janitor, and my mother was going to school. We had a lot of like unattended time, my siblings and I. There's five of us all together, and I'm in the middle. So I just kind of slipped through these cracks. And I also grew up in a time where these things weren't so well known.
Mhm.
So I
Likewise,
was,
yeah.
you know, most unfortunately, the system I grew up in was like, oh, you're just lazy.
Mhm.
Right, yeah.
That's why you can't learn, you know. So
Mhm.
what I found was that when I my sister introduced me to the forensics team, the drama club,
Mhm.
and I found that I could focus for some reason when doing that, and I got positive reinforcement. It was the only thing I got positive reinforcement from,
Okay.
and I would go to competitions and I would win trophies and awards, and it
Mhm.
felt good to like because I didn't play sports. I sucked at sports. I sucked at everything, but acting was the one thing. And I was I still am really such a painfully shy person.
Mhm.
But when you're in the theater, there are you have a group of friends just built in, plus there are so many really attractive girls and
It's
women
true.
about, and it's
Yeah.
Mhm.
just like they're there. And as you get older, it's like, at least when I came up as a straight male, um you're a minority in that
I was,
group,
yeah, yeah,
and most of the men are gay, and most of the women are straight.
yeah.
So it's just, it was
It's a
pretty
numbers
nice.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have no game with, like, to this day. Like,
Uh,
I've been with my partner for a long time now, but like every partner I've ever had made the move on me. You know,
okay, okay,
I
yeah,
got
yeah,
no
yeah.
game.
Um, so you studied at Columbia College. Did you go in Chicago? Did you go straight there after high school, or did you get there in a roundabout way?
So graduating high school, I was going to join the army. Now this is
Uh-huh. I know when this is.
June of
Uh-huh.
2001.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Um, so I was going to join the army, but I got a scholarship to a school in New York, acting conservatory, the American Musical and Dramatic Arts Academy.
Okay.
Nice.
And then I started in the summer, and then September 11th happened. I was in a dance class when
Damn.
when the first plane hit, and I remember someone came into the dance class and told us that America was under attack. It was
Yeah.
bizarre and surreal, and I
And where in New York is AMDA?
Yeah.
Upper West Side.
Okay.
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 I was totally safe. I was
Yeah.
fine.
Hmm.
I
Sure.
didn't have a cell phone at the time, so like
Yeah.
None
it
of us
was
did.
yeah,
No.
and it
Yeah.
was it must have been a nightmare for my mother. Like, just
Sure.
I remember my primary goal was like figuring out a way, because the payphones weren't working, figuring
Yeah.
out a way to contact her to let her know that I was okay. I didn't have email, I didn't have a computer, I didn't have a
Yeah.
phone, you know.
Yeah.
Uh
And it's easy for, like, if you're in New York, the Upper West Side is like a different,
Sure.
different country
it's so
basically
far
than
away.
downtown.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you're your mother in Kansas City, it's like, oh my
She has
God, New
no
York's under
idea. Yeah.
attack.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
the same. If there's a wildfire in LA, doesn't
Yeah.
matter where it is, you're getting phone calls like, "Are you guys
Yeah.
okay?" It's like, this is so far from me.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
When I was still there.
Yeah.
So my favorite my favorite, not that we should be laughing about 9/11, but my favorite 9/11 story is they're on set um shooting Master of Disguise,
Oh,
the
yes,
Dana
I know.
Carvey movie, and
Is
a
this the
producer
story where
comes
they
in.
did? Yeah.
A producer
Go.
comes
You can
in.
go.
Yeah, a producer comes in and it lets everybody know, guys, they just flew planes into the World Trade Center, and they're shooting in New York,
Yeah.
and they have a moment of silence and keep shooting.
Jesus Christ.
And he's in
It was a turtle scene, I believe.
it's the turtle scene. Yeah. So he's in that. I believe he is
I'm pretty sure it's the
addressing
turtle
the
scene.
cast and crew in that costume.
Yeah. Amazing.
Wow.
Okay, so you were at AMDA for the summer. Was the conservatory program full year?
It's a 2-year program,
Okay.
and what you can do is you can circumvent breaks. So you could start, you could take your summer break or start at the summer and then not take any breaks. And you could do the 2-year program in a year and 6 months because it's, broken down into semesters. So that's what I did. And my plan was always, like I went there because I had a scholarship and I had nowhere else to go, really, because I was such a bad student. I mean, I graduated with like a D- average. Like if it wasn't for the vice principal, I don't think I would have been able to graduate. He saw that I was a good kid and that I had these learning issues. So my plan was always to go to Chicago, if not the Army. And because the school at Steppenwolf was like the epitome of what it means to be an actor. So I got into Columbia College. I moved back home for like a few months, got into Columbia College. I had a girlfriend at the time who was going to DePaul. And then I moved to Chicago and sort of like really cut my teeth in Chicago.
Okay.
Like learning there.
Now, when you got into Columbia, were you able to use conservatory credits towards like?
No, it was completely from scratch. And in fact, I got accepted. I wanted to study film, so I got accepted as a film major. But then I just took all theater classes because once I got there, and I was like, oh man, making movies is impossible. It is so freaking hard. It's an impossible task. It's a miracle that a movie ever gets made, even when it sucks. It's still amazing. It's amazing. So I was like, I cannot make a movie. This is too much for me. Theater's like camp. You know what I mean? You're a family, you hang out. It's magic and it's wonderful. So like I just kept studying theater, but then I got kicked out because my financial aid didn't go through. So I'm halfway through my second
Columbia
semester.
College is insanely expensive for those who don't know.
It's so expensive. So and this turned out to be a blessing in disguise. It didn't feel like it at the time, but I go into the financial aid office. We're like, we messed up. We didn't process your aid, so we need 10 grand. I was like, well, that's what the aid was for. I don't have 10 grand, and they're like, well, if you can't pay it, you gotta go and you gotta be out of the dorms in like a couple of days. So I crashed on some couches and I just made my way through Chicago. David Cromer, who is a predominant director and actor now, at the time was a teacher there. He let me stay in his class. I was cast in a play that they let me stay in. The department was really cool about it. And I eventually got back up on my feet, did some stuff out there, got accepted into the school at Steppenwolf, which was a summer program. That changed my life. That was a wonderful summer.
What faculty was there at Steppenwolf?
Well, like Amy Morton, if you know who she is, she was one of my teachers. Just basically their ensemble was at your disposal as teachers throughout. So it's like Amy Morton would go on to direct The Pillow Man, which eventually moved to Broadway, and I got to me and another guy.
Often happens with Steppenwolf. So much shit goes from Steppenwolf to Broadway.
And I got to be her guinea pig for some stuff for her directing that show, because I got to do it with her before she did it with the real cast. It was just, I was just like, it to me, like knowing her and getting to study with her was like getting to study with Meryl Streep.
Sure.
She's just, she's amazing.
Nice.
A learning experience you can't put a price tag on.
And a lot of the people who go to Steppenwolf often refer to the time once you're done as like the Great Steppenwolf Depression. And that comes after because you've learned all these amazing skills and how to work together as an ensemble. But what you learn as soon as you go out into the world and start working is that no one gives a fuck about your process. No one gives a fuck about connecting with you and like they have a not that everyone is like this, but you will meet people who are very focused on just doing what they need to do. And it's a very hard lesson to learn when you're coming from such a like a you know wonderful holistic
Right. Well, and it was started by all those like hardcore Illinois State motherfuckers like Sinise and Malkovich, and Laurie Metcalf was there super early. Tracy Letts came out of there. Michael Shannon came out of there. Like, I mean, Michael Shannon was obviously later, but it's crazy how much fucking talent that place formed that place and then churned out after.
Yeah. Groundbreaking theater. And like, it's my goal in high school was like, I don't care if I have to push a broom there. I want to be involved in some capacity. I remember I went and I saw Betrayal with Tracy Letts and Amy Martin, and I knew some of the people who knew them. And I remember after the show being in an elevator with Tracy Letts and being like, I really liked you're so good. And he was like, yeah. It was just like, it's never meet your heroes.
Right. And it's always that's always because you're going to embarrass yourself. Like, it's not the hero's fault. Like,
no, it's not.
Trust me, I've had that. I've had those moments too. We've talked about them on the podcast before. So how long did you stick around Chicago after that? Were you like starting to get up on stage after the Steppenwolf like summer, or?
I couldn't like, I was getting told by my agent and by casting directors when I would go in for auditions, like we like you should move to New York or LA. We like you, leave town. They're like, you have a look and a vibe that could get you work, and you should go out to one of the coasts and really give it a go.
But not at our production.
But not for this. I was for so many years. I was just an awful auditioner. There's a being good at auditioning is a completely different skill set, and they don't teach you this when you're going to school than it is to have the job. You know what I mean? And you just have to. The best advice I got when it finally clicked for me when I was in New York was like, you have to treat every single audition as if you got the job, you're hired, and you're getting paid. So you need to go in off book. You need to go in with choices. You need to go in like you have to be a polished stone when you walk in through that door. And it took me a long time to learn that. So I left Chicago, went back to Kansas City. It was supposed to only be for a little bit, like for 3 months until I moved again. But then I ended up booking work as an actor in Kansas City.
Sure.
I got my equity card. I did some plays. I worked at the Kansas City Repertory Theater. I worked at Unicorn Theater. I worked at a few other places. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Nice.
And so equity, your equity card, is that transferable to other cities? Like, is it just like nationwide?
Yeah.
Once you're okay.
It's London has a different. It's an equity, but it's like a different thing, I believe.
Thing. Yeah.
But I think you get like, I forget. I don't know how that works. I just worked with was just working on a show over there, but not as an actor. But that's the stage union, and then there's the film union.
Nice.
So you were in KC for a few years then?
It turned into 2 years. It was supposed to be 3 months, turned into 2 years. Worked a lot, saved some money.
You're booking work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you're able to like live a lot cheaper in Kansas City than you are.
Well, I was living with my parents.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
That helps.
I spent a lot of time in a car. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you can't bring people home to your parents'
Right.
house, you know, and
Yeah.
like my old bunk bed, you know.
Yeah. That doesn't
It's a
fly?
it's an interesting experience living with your parents again in your
Mhm.
20s for
Yeah.
sure.
I
I did
did
it for a
And
little
about
while.
I did
Yeah.
like 5 months. I think that was as far as I was able to make it.
yeah, it could be hard, and it's like it's such a weird place to be. It's such a privileged position that your
Sure.
parents are willing to take you in and can take
Mhm.
you in,
Hmm.
but then also dealing with like I'm an adult. I could stay
Yeah.
out as long as I want.
You can't tell me what to do, mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I would like some dinner. Please leave it in the microwave.
Yeah. That's not how I like my laundry folded, mom.
So then I'm assuming New York was next.
The plan was LA, and then I met a girl, fell in love,
Yeah.
and I was reading this fantastic book called Al Pacino in Conversation with Lawrence Gorbel. I'm looking at the book right now. It's on my bookshelf, and it's
Nice.
a compilation of interviews with Al Pacino throughout his career. And I just got like, I'm like, I gotta go to New York. I gotta
Yeah.
go to New York and do it that way, you know? So I moved to New York instead of
Yeah.
LA. Um,
Had you ever been to New York before you moved there, or was it were you
well,
just
I
jumping
went to
in?
school. I went
Oh,
to
yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah,
school.
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah. No,
Duh.
that's okay.
Yeah.
9/11,
Yeah.
Adam. Remember
Yeah.
it?
He forgot.
Yeah.
He forgot.
It happens.
Never forget, Adam.
Yeah, I'm always forgetting. I keep forgetting. I'm not in love anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Okay, okay,
so how
Michael
was it?
McDonald.
Yeah. How was it jumping in instead of being in school, but into being like a working actor in New York City
It was
from
like
nowhere?
I had the advantage of having my equity card,
Mhm.
Mhm.
which meant I could go to casting calls and auditions. I could book
Yeah.
Yeah.
times. You wake up early in the morning, you go to the equity building, you sign up
Mhm.
for the auditions, and you basically just like uh it's like playing the lottery.
Yeah.
You're just most of the casting calls that get done through equity, most of the people who book work through that, it's
Mhm.
usually musicals and touring things.
Yeah.
It's not often. It's usually like equity says we have to audition a certain amount of people for
Right.
this role, even though we have someone in mind. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of that. And I remember
Yeah.
the first audition I did, I went in, there was nobody, it was so early. There's this wonderful woman who I guess was a casting director, and I did a monologue for her, and I crushed it. And I got to tell you, if I tell you I did a good job or that I
You
crushed
actually
it,
did, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I really did a good job. Like
It's not
you guys
false
don't know me
bravado or
very well. The
anything. Yeah, yeah,
listener
yeah.
doesn't know me very well. I'm not like an
Uh-huh.
overly confident,
Uh-huh.
hubristic person.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
but I like crushed it. It was great. It's a great monologue. I executed it well, and I remember she had this look on her face, and she was like, "Good job," and she was just like she had this sort of like like you just moved here, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah, you're like in her eyes was like you did a good job, but you're gonna go through some stuff,
Uh-huh.
and like it doesn't matter how good you are, you're gonna go through some stuff. So good luck, kid, good luck.
Jeez.
Um, uh, and I started doing that, and within like a very short amount of time, I got an agent.
That's
They
great.
do these. I don't know if people are aware of these. There's these terrible things you have to do when you're not a connected actor, which is
Yeah.
you have to do these pay to play things where they're quote unquote networking things where you're paying to go in front of
Sure. Mhm.
casting directors, right? Which
Mhm.
and usually casting directors send out casting associates, so you're not actually in front of these
Yeah.
casting directors.
Yeah.
And at its worst, it's shitty. It's a shitty experience. But at its best, you do meet people like there are casting directors out there who are like not gatekeepers.
Yeah.
They want to help foster careers, and they will teach you. That's how I learned to become good at auditioning. Um
Nice.
so I got my agent, and then I booked a Law and Order almost immediately.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was a guest star. I remember my friend who lives in Canada bought me a ticket to go see Rammstein in Canada, and I was like, yes. And then I got this job, and I was like, I can't come. I'm booking. I'm gonna be on TV. I'm gonna be on TV.
Nice.
And it's such a
and then
when
he
you're
said, "Du hast mich" to you.
yes,
Yeah.
du hast mich, die Fragen. Uh, when you're when you're pursuing like an artistic life, when you're pursuing like a career as an actor, and you do a lot of stage work, your family, people back home, they just can't wrap their heads around what that is and what it means when you get these like milestones. But when you're on TV, it's an opportunity for your family to go,
especially
job,
if it's
kid.
on NBC.
Yeah. It's like it's a big show, and it was such a like big deal to get it. I was so excited and nervous, and it was like my dream was coming true.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. So sticking with stage for a little bit, not to get.
We'll
continuing to
back.
push. I'm continuing to push SVU to.
We all really want to talk about how it was being in a room with Devin Rattray when he was wearing nothing but his tidy whities, but we will wait.
I got stories.
Yes, I hope so. I hope so. But you've done quite a bit of stage work in New York. You made your Broadway debut in 2019
as an understudy, but yes.
Yeah. But in the Rose Tattoo starring Marissa Tomei, like
that was getting that is the hardest. It's the hardest job I ever had, because I was covering all the male parts in it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so you're memorizing I was like, the play was in my head, and she looks, I remember when I met, like, I've always had a crush on her, and then maybe like this is too much information, but
no, please.
When I met her, immediately I was like, oh my God, she looks just like my mom.
Fuck. That took a left turn.
Yeah. And she is, I mean, she could be, her and my mother could be sisters. It's crazy. And my mother was very happy to hear me tell that, like, to tell her that.
Oh, yeah. She probably is like telling everybody she meets that story.
I mean, Marissa Tomei has aged better than almost anyone.
Oh, she is,
and seems to have done so very naturally, without obviously there's not like a fuck ton of work that's been done. Any work that has been done has been,
or if she does, she's a great
top notch.
It's tough. I gotta say, it's such a silly thing to say, but like, being a beautiful woman in the business is fucking hard.
Yeah.
All the predators you have to deal with, aging, dealing with people talking about how you look now versus the way you looked then. And I think her saving grace has been, like, she's always been involved in the theater. And it gives you like a place. I think it gives you a grounded place in the world, a family and a community that you don't often sometimes get with the film business, which is
you can get isolated.
Yeah. And then if you have that grounding, you can choose the movies that you want to do. If you're Marissa Tomei, right? She's the only movies she's in are good movies. She's not taking shitty parts. Good for her.
And she is a really, really nice person. She took the time to always say hello to me. She didn't have to. No. When you're an understudy, sometimes people can treat you like you're not exactly a part of the group. But she like took time to, always say hi. It says, hi, Michelangelo. How are you? You doing good?
Nice.
Good. Yeah. That's my Marissa Tomei.
Sorry, I started flashing to like, I was thinking of Marissa Tomei in like Untamed Heart or something. I
was thinking of George Costanza going out on dates with Marissa Tomei.
Oh yeah. So, like, did you get to make it on stage a little, at least?
So all the understudies ended up going up because Marissa Tomei was going to be gone for a performance, and
Okay.
then the understudy I was working with broke her foot during a
Okay.
rehearsal, and then there was a big rotation, and then people got
Mm.
sick, but like all the guys, it was like one guy, the main guy was Scottish,
Yeah.
smokes and drinks, and never gets sick a day in his life. He was never
Sure.
going to miss a performance.
The alcohol
And
kills
then-
it all.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right. And the smoke, it
Yeah, the
suffocates
alcohol and the smoke
yeah.
kills
Works
all
for
of the
some people.
disease.
Mhm.
He was awesome, really talented guy. Then there was a kid right out of school. He wasn't going to miss a performance. You know what I mean? And then the other part
Yeah.
was such an easy, like one scene, fun part that guy was, all of them were great. But there was one day, it was daylight savings, and the kid screwed up. And I was like, the dressing rooms were 7 flights up, like stacked on top of each other in the roundabout theater, and I was at the top with him. We shared a room, and I was on my way down this spiral staircase, and I'm just like, I'm just on autopilot because I'm going down into makeup to get ready to go, and I'm like, oh, am I like, I just have to trust that it's there, because every day I just run the show
Right.
in my in my apartment, because as an understudy you don't get to work in the space that often. And we just, as I was going down, he was running up, and it was like, technically by equity rules I could have gone on, but like, I'm there to service the show and what the show needs.
Yeah.
So he went on, but that's as close as I got, was that one time.
That
And then
sucks.
I got to shout some things off, like from off stage,
Mhm.
a couple of times.
Yeah, I saw that on I think on your Instagram. Because I dig in as much as I can with these.
I haven't posted on that thing in a long time.
Yeah.
probably like, so the
Well, one of your last
time,
posts was the fucking your 0 cent
Yeah.
your 0 cent check. I'm
Yes.
assuming I'm assuming that was royalties from maybe this SVU or Gotham.
it was Gotham Power, or I have 3 of them. But yeah, it was for 0. I have 3 checks for 0 cents and
Oh my God.
like $0.00. Hilarious.
Thanks for cutting
right?
that, assholes. Now, is there a bar because in LA there was a bar that if you took your residual check in, it was called residuals. And if you took your residual check in and it was for like less than $1, you could get a drink with your residual check.
Awesome.
Are there any
That is
bars
great.
in New York?
Not that I know of. Not
Not
that I
I'm
know
aware
of.
of either. I mean,
That's
Yeah.
fucked up, man.
that's
It should-
Sean.
Looks
would
like
be
you should have
drinking
moved.
there.
Yeah,
Sean would be going to
drinking
trivia
yeah.
there, and not the terrible bar we.
Our
go to on
our
Second
other
Avenue.
podcast co-host
Yeah.
Sean is an actor in New York also, and
God bless him.
He's been he was in Twilight, so he
Yeah.
got some. That's the thing.
He gets a
that's
check.
the one gig
Yeah.
that he still gets like some okay money for.
Yeah.
But he definitely has like smaller residuals that that trickle in and are kind of comical.
Something just happened with Law and Order, because I just started getting like the checks at first, especially for Law and Order, the residual payments were huge. Now they're like nothing, right?
Sure,
But like
Yeah.
some every now and then something, it gets acquired somewhere, or something happens, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh hey, $40, all right.
Nice. Yeah, I mean it's
Well,
not bad. It's
You know-
I mean it's mailbox
Yeah.
money, but if you book enough of those, it
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
you can piece together something. That's a meal. For work that you did 13 years ago, 14 years ago.
2011. Yeah.
I don't even want to think about how long.
Sorry.
I was like, who's that guy on that episode? And that was like, oh man, I ended up going 2 days overshoot what I was supposed to on Law
Okay.
and Order. So like,
Really?
That's
the
crazy.
it was like, that was the first year I made, I'm like a struggling, I worked you guys worked as baristas, right? You've
Of
been
course,
baristas.
yes.
I've
Definitely.
I've done everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a barista at the time, and like since I left my parents' house, I never made more than like 20 grand in a year.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Oh,
and
yeah.
that year, the Law and Order year, I
we've
was
been
like
there.
above the poverty line for the first time
Yeah.
in my life. It was
Nice.
wild.
Nice.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like very scary, honestly, to think about how long it took to get to that point.
Yeah.
You know, to get above the poverty, like it was probably like that year for me
Yeah.
also, which is fucked up.
Yeah, I got above the poverty line, and then my wife got a job in New York City where she was getting paid, but not very much, and we had a child, so I couldn't work, and so we went right back down to the poverty
Yep,
line
yep.
real quick.
Mhm. You go up and you go down. Yeah.
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 And now that master's license that you have doesn't
No, I can't really be
You
a boat captain in Albuquerque, can
no,
I?
no,
Yeah. Oh well.
no, you're sort of landlocked there, buddy.
Yeah. Oh well.
Do you get any discounts or breaks on insurance or anything like that with your captain's
That's a
license?
no. I probably could if it was like for boating and stuff, but I let it lapse because
Mm,
it's kind of expensive
Yeah.
and a pain in the ass test to take, and I'd have to go into a Coast Guard office, and with my other stuff going on, I was like, this is dumb. I don't need to
Yeah.
do this.
I find it shocking that something related to boats would be expensive and time consuming.
Yeah.
Well, and this
wild,
was
right?
not. This was
Well, and like the Coast Guard is a whole different animal. So boats are
Yeah.
very expensive, and you should
Uh-huh.
never buy one, even
Yeah,
if you
No,
don't
I
buy
know.
one.
Yeah,
for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you ever want to go on a boat, just like rent one.
Yeah.
People are happy to take you someplace.
Uh-huh.
But with the Coast Guard, you enter this whole new realm of like bureaucracy that most people aren't used to. Like any asshole can go drive a boat, but if you drive a boat with paying customers, you have a whole different world of hurt and learning to get
Yeah.
into. So I did that for a while. It was fun. I kind of missed it, but
Yeah.
there's some
No,
things
I
I
miss
don't
my boat
miss.
life.
You did this in New York?
I did this in Galveston, Texas, before we moved to New York. When we
Okay.
moved to New York, if we were going to stay there, I was going to get a job doing that in some form or fashion. But once my kid could get into school and we could swing childcare a little bit more, but it's like it was going to be something like $1,500 to $2,000 a week for childcare on
Whoa.
the Upper East Side where we lived. And it's just like, well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
just be
Adam was in
working
New York
to
until
not see
about
him.
a year and a half ago, or no,
A year,
last
just a
year.
year.
Last year.
We
Yeah.
moved last July. Yeah. But yeah. So Albuquerque's nice. You can own a home here, and make less than $1 million a year. So it's nice.
Right? It's crazy here.
Uh-huh.
I've been trying, my partner and I have been looking at like buying something upstate, and
Uh-huh.
it's just so crazy
Do
expensive.
you live in the city?
We live in Queens,
In
a
Queens, okay.
In a Greek neighborhood.
Astoria or
Yeah,
a different?
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Astoria's
Astoria.
lovely.
It's wonderful. I
Yeah.
wish we could buy a place here, but it's like I'm not a millionaire, you know?
Yeah.
No,
I have,
that's why we left LA ultimately. It was like
Yeah.
I hated where my shit was going, and buying a house was a pipe dream.
No, it's never going to happen. Yeah, and just like being comfortable is you can be comfortable, but like you think about how much money you're making to barely survive in New York versus in some other places, and it's it depends on what you're doing, but with my wife's career, we can do that here, so it's nice.
Yeah, the
But
starving artist thing gets old
I
when you
believe
enter your
it.
30s,
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. It gets even
Um,
older in your 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we get to the SVU of it all, you were also Jada Pinkett Smith's boy toy bartender of
Ooh.
sorts
Yes.
in the second and third
Gotham.
episodes of Gotham, which I did just watch.
Nice.
How was shooting Gotham?
That was so when I showed up to the table read, I was sitting next to Jada Pinkett, and the first thing she said to me was like, "You're not my Laszlo." Apparently, Laszlo is played by a different actor in the pilot episode, and I was just like, "I don't know what you mean, ma'am." This is my name, like, you know what I mean? But like, other than like her completely understandable confusion as to
Sure,
like,
uh-huh.
where's my Laszlo?
Because she hasn't seen the cut where Laszlo's not in that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and she was awesome to work with.
Okay.
Nice.
She didn't try to
she
convert
was-
you to Scientology or anything?
She did not
Yeah.
try to convert
Okay.
me. She
You
was
didn't get
my.
slapped by Will Smith for
I
any
did not
reason?
get slapped
Yeah.
by anybody except
Okay.
for the big
Except
scary
for the
men
actors,
who beat
yeah.
me up.
Yeah. How
I'll tell
heavily
you, when this-
choreographed was that?
It was not choreographed at all.
Okay.
And so when they take like, So I get beat up, right?
Yeah.
And when they grab me and they take me sort of like I'm like kind of off
Yeah,
camera,
it's in
but
the background of the shot,
out of
yeah.
focus, right?
Mhm.
They're like pummeling me, right? So
Right.
I have a lot of stage combat experience. So I kind of like
Mhm.
know how to go with the flow with these guys. And so I'm like, yeah, we work it out and they're gonna do this thing. And
They're big
I'm
dudes too.
they're big dudes, and I'm
Mhm.
making noises like I'm getting hit, and I'm making it really like pathetic and high pitched, and
Okay.
just like, and then I remember after the first take, the director's like, uh, "Don't make any sounds, like you're mic'd, like we'll add the sounds later,
Okay. Okay.
like don't."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
They
sorry,
put all of that
Yeah.
in the hands of a Foley artist and a
yeah,
okay, that's a
Wow.
bummer.
yeah.
Yeah.
But she is super generous, open actor.
Nice.
That's
She
great.
was right there. She was just like I could just the best when you're working with a professional like that. It's so settling for someone who is nervous being around all this. You go on set, it's so many people, and it's
Yeah.
like
Oh
it's
yeah,
like the
it's nuts.
first day. It's like the first day at school when you're a guest
Yeah.
star,
And I'm sure
and
it's so much different to be on like a TV or film set with like, a crew of hundreds and on stage where the
Yeah.
crew's not in your face. You don't have a
well,
camera in your face. You don't have all the guys lighting, like you don't have
Yeah.
G&E like all over the place. It's
but
got to
more,
be
more
a completely different thing, right?
well, the most important part of it is that you have time like, unless you're a series regular, right?
Mhm.
Sure.
Um, you have time with everyone. So
Mhm.
like you get accustomed to these hundreds
Right.
of people.
Right,
You
right, right.
understand who the grips are. You
Hmm.
understand, like, you know what I mean? Like you don't feel so out
Yeah.
of place.
It's not just some
Um,
guy walking around with a walkie on his belt
yeah,
that you
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know.
Telling you,
Yeah, yeah.
and then it's because
Uh-huh.
then you
Yeah.
got to show up and you just got to execute. There's
Right.
no like process. There's no
Hmm.
talking about acting. You've been hired to do the thing that you did
Right.
before, so do it now. And it's like
Hmm.
when you're working with somebody like her, you just kind of like look at her, and as long as you know your lines, you kind of feel like it's going to be okay.
Right. Were you bummed that Laszlo's death happened off screen?
Yeah, man. I was hoping, maybe I was like, maybe I'll because there was talk of apparently there's a character uh who becomes a villain whose name is Laszlo, who's some
Okay.
sort of
Sure.
pig guy or something. I was
Hmm.
like, oh, maybe I'll
Maybe I'll be
like
pig guy.
I'll be a hand will come up out of the
Uh-huh.
sewers at some point,
Sure.
and I'll get to
Right.
reprise Laszlo. But no, it
Uh,
never. For a long time after work, after I did that gig, after I worked at one point down by Forbidden Planet, which is
Mhm.
this amazing comic book store. I would
mhm.
always go in there with a buddy and be like, "It's so weird that they don't have the Laszlo figures yet. Like, where's the Laszlo collectible?"
Uh, so your character's demise and power is immortalized on your Reels page on your website.
Yeah. I made a
Um,
real career out of getting beat
yeah.
up and
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
killed and playing.
seriously.
Like
Yeah, so
my thing was prostitutes and Italian
mhm,
guys. That's the thing I
yeah.
go out for. I play Italian guys and
Mhm.
prostitutes. So yes.
Mhm.
So as hosts of a podcast about a show that routinely exploits background actors, I'm glad you had a line.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah. I had a few lines. I had a few lines.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
I re I remember my audition for that. I knew I was going to get it because they were seeing those types of parts. They're typically these insanely attractive guys.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I go in and like like I'm okay. I'm not these guys are like supermodels, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
But they have no technique.
Sure.
Most of these guys, they don't have any technique. So I'm like, I
Mhm.
know that if I go in there and I use all my tools for auditioning and
Right.
I give them an arc, even if it's one line, I give it an
Mhm.
arc. I know that I'll at least impress the casting director, and
Right.
they'll be happy to see me because like I'm not just like a empty, vapid, pretty face.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
know when I was like, I know I got this. I know
Did you
I
get a
got this.
bump for being in the pool?
A bump like in pay?
Well, I know background gets a bump like if they have to do wet work or if they have to like if there's smoke in a scene. I don't know how it works with
It wasn't. I wasn't background. That was a.
No, I know you weren't background.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't remember. I never had to deal with the SAG after contracts.
Mhm.
So, on the production side of things. So when you're a day player like that, but like scale.
I was like I forget. It wasn't guest star, but it wasn't day player. It was like a different.
It's
It was a
co-star,
different
right?
co-star. It was co-star. Yeah.
So as a co-star, were you on a daily or co-star weekly?
I was. I think that was just one. That was one day.
Okay,
I got like I got the three lines or whatever it is.
sure.
I mean that was a wild shoot because we were in the pool
Uh-huh.
and
Oh, I
and
watched it.
so that's literally like 12 hours that clip
Yeah.
you
Oh, yeah.
watch that's
Uh-huh.
the representation of 12 hours of work. So after we do the first sort of like shot and then
Right.
they do like a turnaround,
Mhm.
we went into a steam room to warm back up, but then when we
Okay.
went back into the water, I was like I was like freezing cold.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what I'm going to do?
Because
I'm
you just been
gonna-
in a steam room.
yeah. And I was like, I'm just going to stay in the pool the whole time. I'm
Uh-huh.
just going to
But then you're
swim
gonna
back
get
like while they're
hypothermia.
no, because like I'm moving around and I'm
Uh-huh.
like I'm warm and I'm loose. And if you watch the scene again, you'll see the guy who plays like the crime
Yes.
lord that I'm blowing.
Yeah.
You see him in that like 10 seconds. You see dark circles start to form under his eyes because he kept going back into the steam room and then back into the pool. And I'm like, dude, you shouldn't be doing this. Just stay in the
You have
pool.
to drop
I
out.
just like I literally got paid to like swim in the pool
Yeah.
all day long. It was amazing. I got to tell you, so I was like so nervous because I was going to have to be in a bathing suit.
Sure.
So I was
Yeah.
like, I had like 4 weeks to prep, and I was working out 3 times a day.
Yeah.
I was eating nothing,
A
and
carb
then you
didn't
watch,
pass you just ate
Yeah.
an apple every day.
Yeah.
You did a
And
Joel
then you see
McHale
the-
diet.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
you see the scene, and you literally don't see past like below my chest.
Yeah.
You don't even see my nipples. I like maybe you see
Uh-huh.
my nipples for a second, and it was just like yeah.
But whatever. You didn't
Best
come
laid
in.
plans.
Yeah, you didn't come in. You're at least going to be confident throughout that scene. You're not going to be thinking, "I hope
Yeah.
my abs pop."
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Hopefully
It
they
was
don't show
definitely
my
worth
ass
it
in
to
the
like
scene. Yeah.
when I derobed, I was
Yeah.
I felt confident in my little tiny
Yeah.
I was in these little tiny trunks that they put me in.
So speaking of little tiny trunks, is this
Yeah.
the time we should
Sure,
segue
yes.
to the reason we have you on today?
Yeah, which
So
the more I've been thinking about it, I'm hard pressed to think of a scene that is
is as
stuck
wild.
in my head more than this opening scene. of
everything
SV.
about
we're,
it,
we're
every
200.
detail.
We're what? We're gonna record what 228 tonight.
228 episodes of this.
So we've seen
absurd show.
228 episodes of this
Wow.
goddamn show, and I
Yeah.
seriously, I do not think that there is a
Yeah.
more memorable scene that we have seen than your scene.
I mean, maybe when Steve from Sex and the City, maybe
Oh,
one of-
yeah,
on
maybe.
that episode, but
Yeah, when
I
he
don't know.
tells Steve from Sex and the City tells Benson and Rollins that
Yeah.
they'd be more
They-
attractive if they were partial amputees.
Yeah, if he
Oh,
amputated
wow.
their legs, they'd be
Yeah.
more
They'd be
interesting.
more special. More, yeah.
How does that stack up against Perp on Viagra? Could have raped her for
Oh,
hours.
Yeah, he could have raped her for hours. Oh my
That's-
God. I mean,
Marishka.
I mean,
Yeah.
just like if you think about, I like in my mind to think that they actually did, like they drew out all of the shots for this. There's like they're like doing like storyboards, like they're fucking Akira Kurosawa or something like that.
No,
Yeah,
it's not
and
like
this is
so-
some
that.
Hitchcock
Nope.
shit. No, I'm sure it's not like that at all.
Nope.
No.
But I like to think in my mind that somebody has a little like on a little panel, like a penciled in drawing of Taryn Manning's panties close up in that scene. 'Cause
Oh, what
it's
a like
what the fuck?
it's a crime that they shot, like it's such a unflattering position, and
Oh,
it's
no,
it's,
yeah.
it's just like yeah.
Everything is terrible about that shot. But
But-
let's
but it's
rewind
amazing.
to the
Yeah, we'll
beginning.
go- Before,
So was this
yeah.
on location in an apartment building? Because you're coming up the
That's-
stairs. I'm
yeah.
assuming they didn't build a set on a second floor.
Yeah, that apartment is a location. Yeah, on
Nice.
location.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you run up the stairs. This is the cold open.
Yeah.
You run up the stairs. You're knocking on Larissa's door, and then the neighbor comes out.
Lucy Martin,
Yeah,
who
Lucy
we've
Martin.
seen in her underwear in a different SVU.
Oh, really?
Yes, in
I
the
can't remember.
William Lewis episode, she's
Oh
the
God,
one
is she
who-
the mother?
She's strung up in the
Yeah,
the
Jesus
closet
Christ.
wearing her underwear.
This
which
show
is-
has so many people do so many terrible things.
It sure does.
I like bless you guys and bless your listeners and bless the people who really like this show. When I was doing research when I got cast, I don't know how hey, I watch horror movies, that's my comfort.
Yeah.
I don't know how people watch this show as much as they do. It's so
traumatizing.
So
Yeah, coming from two
gruesome,
guys who have done
awful
this
things.
229 times.
Yeah.
We rank the episodes on the awful things that happen to people.
Yes. Yeah. The more bad things, the better. So, from what I can tell, Lucy Martin's character, whatever the actress or whatever the role is,
Yeah, I forget.
she is her apartment. From what I can tell, basically forms the wall that keeps going this way. So when you kick the door open, that's like at the edge of the apartment.
Yeah. Josh is getting to the nitty gritty of this.
It's,
So-
probably
it's-
don't remember.
yes, I was listening to the episode. And you guys were really fixated on this because it's, the geography doesn't line up.
Yes, the
is what you're
geography does
saying.
not line up at all. Because they have you come around because you know when you are able to key in and you can see past the chain lock. She's
Yeah.
obviously Taryn Manning is tied down to a chair.
Yeah.
In just her well, not her, but in a bra and underwear that
Devin Rattray has dressed her in.
has
and then
dressed
tied her up with
after
like,
after shaving her, of course, and leaving nicks all over her body because that was a detail we all needed, Adam.
why not?
Yeah. So she's tied up in this chair in an angle that from a later shot is very unflattering. Not that she looks I'm not saying anything about Taryn Manning, but if you were to ask, hey, could I be framed in the least like
Anybody,
flattering
doesn't
way
matter
possible?
how
Doesn't matter
fit
who
you
it is.
are.
It doesn't matter who you are.
It's
Yeah.
not a
No.
good position.
No, skin binds on your stomach
Yeah.
if you're like hunched forward.
Yeah.
And so they basically it ends on a shot, the scene does, of just a close up where the bottom of the frame is about midway under the mons pubis, and the top of the frame is like right above her belly button, and that's a tight shot. And if you're looking at an 80-inch TV, as I am usually, that's a lot of screen for not a lot of flesh. And okay, so she's,
What were the lens? What lens did they use? They use 80?
no, so do you remember how long this sequence took to shoot? Was this a whole day?
This was
Because there's a lot of action and a lot
Yeah.
of changed angles, and
it was minimum a day. Like I said,
Okay.
they went over with me by a day or two. So it was a minimum. I think we were there 2 days maybe.
okay.
Wow.
Jesus.
It was
But
a lot
was
like
this the first shoot of the day, or was this like a midday call?
this was earlier. This was early. This was early in the
okay.
day. And so when I open the door, when she gives me the key and I open the door,
when you kick the
and I look through
Yeah.
the lock with 'cause she's got the lock,
the
right?
chain
The
lock,
chain. Yeah.
By far the hardest thing I had to do was that shot of me
line
looking
up your eye to
Really?
the camera.
because I'm legally blind in my left eye. So
Okay.
that's the
Oh.
eye that and like I remember that the director crap, I had his name written down. He's a real John Cassavetes kind of guy. Kind
Okay.
of real like
Constantine Macris.
Yes. He was I could tell he was getting a little frustrated with me because it was like it's such a simple thing. you open the door and then you look at this thing, and I'm trying to tell him like I am blind. I cannot see more than like 3 inches in front of my face. So it's
Yeah.
just like shooting like darts in the night, trying to hit that shot. But the geography of it, like I think you're correct in that it wasn't.
Because I'm almost positive. I just watched it again because I remember the blocking being a weird thing, and when the next door neighbor opens her door, her apartment's shooting down that way, like the space of her apartment. It's a hallway down that way too. So like the door is definitely opening to the wall, forming the wall between their apartments. And so you come around, they have you come around, and it's almost like they have to have pivoted because
But just to have the crew in a tiny
Buzz
apartment.
is supposed to be behind you there.
Yeah, he's Devin Rattray. He's Buzz McAllister from Home Alone.
Yeah, he's. I was like, is that's Buzz from Home Alone? That's got to be Buzz from Home Alone. My introduction to him, by the way, was I was in a trailer out on the street, and his trailer was, I didn't know this, but his trailer was next to mine. And I'm like, just in there waiting. And I can hear music coming from the trailer next to me. And it's like really creepy, like children's music. And he was prepping by listening to like creepy kid songs, and I was like that's gotta be the guy who's playing what's his name in the episode?
Eldon Baylog.
Baylog. That's gotta be Baylog. And then he was just hanging out on set, like he was like, hey, you guys gotta. He was like totally fine. He was the most confident guy.
He was wearing a robe, I'm assuming.
They didn't have a robe. What they did have though was like a butcher's jacket. Those almost
so much worse. So much worse.
Yeah. So like in between takes,
he
would put on this like lab butcher's coat thing with the mask on.
Oh God!
And just like and he's totally just like he commands the set, and he's just like, can I see the playback? I want to do this, and like, and he's just having a good time. Jay with the mask either on his face or right above his head. He was having a blast. That's the part to get in this episode.
Yeah.
Him
David Patrick Kelly.
Yeah. They both got to have a lot of fun.
They both went there. Wow.
He's just his Devin's like grounded. Like obviously not in this opening scene, but like his interrogation scene. Yeah. How like a matter of fact he is. And then he makes these
pawing the photograph.
Yeah, when he kind of like that, and when he kind of like touches Maloney. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
It's like
Maloney must have almost broken there. Like
I bet you that was his audition. That was the audition scene for the part. And I bet you that's all the stuff he's doing was all him.
I wonder if he was offer only.
I don't know, man. A lot of people who
not offer only, but like I wonder if, because they do stunt cast.
But Taryn Manning was probably the one they cast, the stunt cast, right? Like, she's the one that they called.
I can't imagine she auditioned for the part, but
no, and I bet David Patrick Kelly didn't either.
Oh no, not him. Yeah. No. Yeah. But maybe that's how fucked up the business is.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything of the audition for Law and Order?
I don't remember. I remember the part was. I do remember this. The part was slightly different, and there was more of Patrick. When I got the first script, Patrick had 2 more scenes. There was he
Which
was
is why
there.
They had you on a. Like for a week or more than a week, for 2 weeks, basically.
It was 3 days, 3 or 4 days is all I shot.
Okay. But did they have you on more than a week? Like pay wise? Okay.
No. I got the time and a half because they went over on my time. But what happens with the show like Law and Order, right? Is that they write a script and then they start to whittle it down in what they're going to be able to get accomplished in that time.
Sure. They only have 42 minutes.
Yeah, so Patrick got, it cost them way less to have me there for 2 scenes as opposed to 4 scenes. So like
Right,
I was there
right.
with Larissa when she's going through some of the stuff she's going through.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense in the story, but the practicality of paying
Right,
me
right.
and
Yeah.
working out the logistics, you know, those things get lost and cut.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. So you didn't actually get to act with Taryn Manning, but did you interact with her very much? Did you have
she was very
Well, he did, but she was unconscious in the scene.
yeah.
she was unconscious in that scene.
And they didn't
she
use
was-
any doubles for any of the scene in the apartment, right?
No.
It was just the three of you.
Yeah.
No,
Just the three of us.
because it's another stunt heavy scene.
Yeah.
I had
Sure.
a stunt man that we didn't use because I was able to just do all the
Okay.
stuff. But I think I was
I
the
was
only guy
wondering
with a
about the
stunt
fall
person.
specifically. If
Yeah.
with the fall you might have to.
Like with the banging through the door, they had to.
Yeah.
I had like body armor on under my
Okay.
costume.
Okay.
Because you
Cool.
do it like you think it's no big deal, but you're doing it like 30 times.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
gonna like screw up your neck or your shoulder
For
or
sure.
something.
For sure. Yeah.
And my
Yeah.
stunt guy was awesome. They're always awesome. Stunt guys are
Yeah.
always awesome.
Stunt
One of my
guys are the
best friends is a
coolest guys on
stunt
set.
guy.
They're
Yeah.
the
They have a
coolest
cool
guy on
job.
set by far.
Yeah.
Like everyone's always like, "Oh, stunt guys here, that's awesome." Like the entire fucking crew, whenever a stunt guy's on set, is jazzed. Like
Yeah.
whatever's gonna happen.
Cowboys,
like, this
man.
is the kind of cool, like fun day, you know. But so you had a stunt double that you didn't end up having to use. How many times did you have to shoot breaking the door in?
Like I don't like
A million.
a dozen times. Like a
Jesus
dozen
Christ.
times.
At least it's
Yeah.
a quick reset, probably,
It's a quick reset, but
because
like
they
it
have
was,
the lock on
I-
a breakaway mechanism, right?
No, because it's
Did they have to re-drill the
someone's-
lock each time?
I can't remember how they did it, but I mean that is someone's apartment
Okay,
Yeah.
that you're shooting in. You know what I mean? Be
yeah.
careful if you agree for someone shooting your place.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah.
fuck it up, man.
Pour over the fucking location agreement. Pour
And
over
just-
it because
just
your
like-
place is gonna get fucked.
So
I've worked
much
on plenty of
equipment
location
everywhere.
shoots.
Yeah.
Don't ever let them shoot at your house.
Yeah.
Never.
Or
no
ask
stunt
for
guy
like a crazy amount of money.
Yeah, an exorbitant amount of money, like more money than like a year's
Yeah.
worth of mortgage payments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Having worked on the production side of things, I'm well aware of all this. So with the hand-to-hand combat with Devin Rattray,
with wow.
Whitey's tidy Whitey's clad Devin Rattray.
he was really character. I mean,
How long
he
were you
was really
grappling
this-
with him?
I don't know. That's like a few hours altogether of shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was great. He was very nice.
That's awesome.
Taryn Manning was sort of more quiet and
Sure.
and to herself. I
Yeah.
remember we were driving in a car, the three of us. We were being driven somewhere. I think to Chelsea Piers, which is where
Okay.
their headquarters was at the time.
Yeah.
And we passed the Seinfeld diner.
Okay.
You know, the
Yeah.
exterior
Tom's,
shadow,
right?
and
Yeah.
he
Sure,
was
yeah.
so fucking pumped about it.
Oh, that's nice.
He was just gregarious and like he was like, I got a band, you guys should come check it out. And oh my god, that's the side. Like take photos. I'm gonna send it. I gotta put. You know, it's just
Did
like
you get to verify whether or not his band was the music that he was listening to get in character?
I was not unfortunately able to verify that. I should have.
So were you going back for like end of day stuff, or like was the apartment location close enough that they were shuttling from Chelsea Piers to the location, or was this I guess it could have been the hospital. Well, no, he wouldn't have been there with at the hospital.
No, he wasn't in the hospital scene.
Well, I mean, you get. I think we were being shuttled somewhere for like maybe it was we were being shuttled to wherever they had set up base camp.
Yeah,
where everybody is, which is sometimes blocks away.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Right.
it's hard.
It's
to
wherever you
recall.
can have
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
parking lot, basically.
Big
Yeah, but
shoots in
but-
New York are crazy because there aren't
Yeah.
parking lots. So
Yeah.
Yeah, you just see the star wagons parked.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Taking up a whole city block.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
Adam
they-
used to
they-
live down the street from Only Murders in the Building's apartment.
One of their from their from their cafe. Not I've been by the apartment
yeah, the cafe.
complex. That's on the
Yeah.
other. That was on the west
Yeah.
side. I live on the east side, and yeah. So, but there other things would shoot, and like, guys come by at night saying we're going to tow your cars if you're here in the morning, and then then all of a sudden there's like 100 trucks all over the neighborhood. And I always planned that I was going to wear like a black shirt and put a walkie-talkie on my hip and go get some crafty, but
Yeah.
like I couldn't show up there with a 3-year-old doing that. I feel bad.
You should have had me send you a walkie. I could have sent you a walkie. Really,
I mean, I have a
easily.
walkie-talkie.
I think you can get away with that, especially with the 3-year-old.
If you have
Get
a
a
walkie,
couple
if you have
rolls
a
of tape.
walkie
Yeah.
with
My
all
kid
you
needs
need is
to
the
eat.
white.
Yeah,
all you need is
right?
gaff tape
Yeah.
saying like
Yeah, get a
just grip
clipboard.
Adam grip,
Yeah.
and that's it. Throw it on your belt. You'll be
Make
fine.
sure you're wearing like Bluntstones or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, or
Definitely.
you have like just like a string of different tapes on your like hanging from your belt loop. Yeah, have a multi-tool like strapped to your belt.
Yeah, I usually do, but that's from boating.
So
Go on, Josh.
did this forever change how you viewed Home Alone?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I just couldn't believe that was Buzz. And then
amazing.
like I think you guys mentioned Blue Ruin in the episode.
Yeah.
God, he's so
Love
good in
that fucking movie.
That guy works. That guy works. He was in R.I.P.D. He's in a ton of stuff. He's a
He was
really
in Better Call Saul,
good
too.
actor. Yeah, he's a great actor. He's
We're still
fantastic.
talking about Devin Rattray, right?
Yeah. Devin Rattray. Yeah, he's amazing. And man, when I remember going into makeup my first day at Chelsea Piers, and
Was this for the
Mariska.
hospital scene?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
and Mariska's there,
Yeah.
and I was just like, she is like, the camera does not do justice to how gorgeous she is in real life.
Mm-hmm.
She helped me out so much. She was so nice. She was wonderful. And then I remember I'm in my chair and Christopher Maloney comes in. And Christopher Maloney's not a tall guy, but he's built like a brick
Right.
shit
A
house.
brick.
Oh,
yeah.
And
we've all seen his ass cheeks and tight pants.
Yeah.
We've seen the cheeks.
Yeah.
And
Dude is cut.
I am like a seminal film for me was I was working at Hollywood Video when I was 15 years old, and
Nice.
the first movie I rented was
Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah. And he was for many years my favorite character in the movie.
Oh, for
And
sure.
I
I'm
was-
gonna go hump a fridge.
Yeah. I so desperately wanted to just be like, I'm gonna go fondle some sweaters. Just like say one of the lines to him. But he comes into the makeup room, and I'm in my chair getting done up, and he's got like an electric shaver that he's kind of like shaving a little bit, and he stops.
He can't be too clean.
Yeah. And he kind of like commands the room when he's in it, and he's kind of like, Michelangelo. Jesus fucking Christ, man. We're like, we gotta call you. You got a shorter name than that? We gotta call you something. We gotta call you something else. And I was like, yes. And he
Thanks,
like,
Mom and Dad.
he in our scenes together, he is fucking around and having a good time with the crew up until action, and then it's like a laser beam focused into what he's doing, but it's just like he's laughing and joking, and then it's like ready, set, action, and then boom, he's right there. He's what's his character's name? I'm sorry.
Stabler.
Stabler. He's the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And Mariska was like, I remember she like kind of like, I'm laying in the bed, and she kind of like grabs my foot and she goes, "You're doing a good job." And it was like, that was like everything,
Nice.
a little encouragement.
I mean, that's a good scene with the leads. That's
yeah. Was it
do-
crazy to have fucking? I mean, we all love Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah.
Was it crazy to have him say, "A guy in his underwear swinging a tripod? You're lucky to be alive."
I was so fucking nervous. It's my first time working really on camera in a professional setting. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know where like I just remember the director being like, you got to stay low. So like, I kind of feel like I feel like I look really awkward in that scene. Like, I'm like kind of, like, I'm like, I
But you've
don't
also just had the
understand what my
shit kicked.
framing is.
Yeah, you look like you
And
got the shit kicked out of you by a large, basically naked man wearing a hockey mask. I mean, like that's how you'd look, right?
yeah. Yeah. But Patrick, he could take a beating. He's got brothers.
Yeah. Yeah. He's, was it, how many brothers did he have? He didn't say.
Did he
never
say
mind.
3 older brothers?
I
Maybe
think
just
he-
older brothers.
Yeah. Was makeup, going through makeup for this fun? Because obviously you're in
Yeah.
more than just like, more than just normal makeup.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
they do the little cuts and it's
They put your
getting
arm in a
the-
sling too?
Was my arm in a I honestly don't
Oh
remember.
man, I don't remember. I
Honestly,
just
don't
I
watched
think it
remember.
was,
3
but I
times.
could be wrong.
But I got the
Yeah.
tubes and everything
Yeah.
and yeah. Yeah, I got
Did
to
they
lay
shoot the
down.
hospital at Chelsea Piers, or was that
Yeah,
a
that
location
hospital's in
somewhere?
Chelsea
Yeah.
Piers.
I'm sure
Yeah.
because
Nice. Because they have so many
when do you
hospitals,
see an
please.
SVU
Yeah.
episode that they don't go to the hospital for
And
something?
so their offices are there, right? So like
Yeah.
every all the stars,
Yeah.
Maloney and Mariska and Richard Belzer and Ice, they all have offices, right?
Mhm.
Nice.
So on the days that I was at Chelsea Pier, it was 2 days. They put me the first day in BD Wong's dressing
Nice.
room,
Oh,
his
nice.
office dressing room, and I was being in that space was really cool. He had this huge framed photo of when he had this big article in the Advocate, I think it was. It was a magazine article on like him adopting his son. And it was like a big deal for an openly gay man and his struggles with like the adoption and then
That's
the
cool.
next day I was in Richard Belzer's office
Nice.
dressing room. And dude, his office is covered like in cigarette ash and his sunglasses are like they're everywhere. Those like his eyeglasses that he wears. And I was like, well, they're not there that day. And I'm like,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just hanging out in his office, like trying on his sunglasses and
That's
stuff. Because I'm like,
badass.
this is Richard Belzer's sunglasses. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
this is
Comedy
I cannot
legend
pass up
Richard
this
Belzer.
opportunity.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's crazy.
That's badass. I assume have you seen Substitute 2, Schools Out before?
That's the one with
where BD Wong is the big bad.
With the first one
Is
with
he the
Treat
big
Williams.
Yeah.
BD Wong
yeah.
is a big
I was gonna
bad,
say
yeah.
Treat Williams. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not seen that since I saw it as a kid. Is it worth revisiting?
It's very
No.
bad.
Okay.
It's very bad. But it is funny
We
to
watched
see
it for
BD
movie
Wong.
club.
He's like the auto shop teacher, right?
Yeah.
/ big
And
bad.
also
Yeah.
running a drug smuggling thing through the car shop at the school. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think I need to watch all the Substitute Teacher movies.
I mean,
Well, maybe just the first two.
if you're doing like a Treat Williams retrospective, then watch it.
Sure.
But it's
Yeah, if you're wanting to
yeah.
honor Treat as Treat should
Yeah.
be honored.
Yeah.
Speaking of films, did you guys ever get around to watching Dreamscape?
Yes.
No.
Well, so I guess whatever. Sean and I just recorded Dreamscape for Unkind Rewind.
Oh, nice.
But that episode won't drop until probably November. So
So when I was going to school at New York, I was on the Upper West Side. I was right by Lincoln Center, and there was the Performing Arts Library, and I would rent movies. And one of the first 2 movies I rented from the Performing Arts Library was Dawn of the Dead, which I had never
Nice.
seen before, the original
Yeah.
George Romero film, and then Dreamscape from 1984. And I watched a little bit of it today just to like get a little flavor for it. It's a fun movie. I think I wouldn't call it a good movie, but
I'd
it's
concur with
fun
both of those
and kind of
assessments.
crazy. It looks great. As someone who misses seeing like actual film,
practical effects. Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Practical effects, but like actually something shot on film that doesn't
Sure,
look
sure.
like it was shot on an iPhone. It looks great. And of course, I mean, David Patrick Kelly. You cannot go
Yes.
wrong.
Yeah,
with
we
Patrick
can't get away from David Patrick Kelly on this interview.
Well,
because,
you
of course-
would thrown it out because I just listened to 97. I just listened to it today. and you had thrown out Dreamscape, and I was like, oh, that's funny, because Sean and I just recorded that with one of his buddies. Yeah, that is coming, listeners, for Unkind Rewind in season 2. So
Nice.
Yeah, if your thing is David Patrick Kelly in a black gi with light up nunchucks on a post-apocalyptic dreamscape train,
it kind of is.
This movie is for you.
Yeah, it is.
That sounds fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the Bill Pullman episode movie that I'm getting that confused with? Doesn't matter.
So we're recording this 5 days after the release of Sabrina Carpenter's 6th LP, featuring 2 global chart toppers and her first Billboard Hot 100 single. She's in this episode.
Okay.
As one of Eldon Baylog's victims, Paula.
The
one who goes into more detail. This also features Catherine Missel and Peyton List, who are still going strong. So 3 child actors who, despite having acted in this episode, are still acting. We often talk about how many...
There was like 11 children in this one, and many of them did not.
Many of them did not keep acting, and this happens frequently. We host a podcast about a show that's really fucked up and ask kids to do really fucked up things. How easy was it for you to say to your parents, "Mom and Dad, you should watch me in this"?
Oh, it was easy.
There wasn't. You didn't have to.
I'm going to give you some context here. Before I moved to New York, I was living in Kansas City, and I got a job in a play, and it was called The Little Dog Laughed. And in it, I do full frontal nudity. And it's the play is about a movie star who's a closeted homosexual who falls in love with a prostitute. I play the prostitute, and I have multiple full frontal naked scenes with a guy
on stage.
And my mother came like that. I was like, guys, you don't need to come see the show. But my mother came, and my high school girlfriend's mom came with her and saw this show.
Right.
So something like that was like, my nieces and nephews are just like I love them so much. They were so young at the time. I was like, maybe don't let them see it, because my nephew in particular, one of them was like at an age where it's like they don't quite understand that what they see on the TV isn't real.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, because I mean, this is definitely a show that I don't think Adam or I would ever say, "Hey, Mom, listen to our podcast about SVU."
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't want to go into detail about like just how the jizz got on the VHS cassettes on David Patrick Kelly's couch, but
that guy's a sprayer, huh?
Yeah, what in the
hell? I got horny. I had to relieve myself. Some matter must have splattered all over the place, and
I saw some tapes. Well, I think so. I have a question. So, what's the most recent movie you guys have done on your podcast? Before we start to wrap this up,
Friday the 13th is coming up.
Nice.
In September. So we actually did a special exclusive YouTube episode for Friday the 13th Part 3. 3D, A New Dimension in Terror.
Sure.
And then we also did Part 7 recently. And then we did a staff meeting episode where we got together because we were going to be throwing like a movie party outside, and we were trying to figure out like summer horror movies. So it's more of a listicle episode where it's like horror movies that define to you what summer is, whatever that means. We sort of go through, we each have 3 picks, and we decide which one is going to be the winner that night to do a screening with a bunch of friends and Jiffy Pop and fire pits and
Sleepaway Camp would be one.
Sleepaway Camp. That was oh man. Oh, Angela. Oh boy.
You guys have done Sleepaway Camp, right? I swear I saw that on the list. I was gonna listen to
we
that
have a YouTube.
too.
We have a YouTube. That was one of our first YouTube episodes.
Nice. Beautiful.
That's an interesting story. The guy who made that, I love that movie, but like he kind of takes credit for making like a progressive film and being ahead of the and I think he just got lucky making something and like doing something for exploitation and the sensationalism of it. So like I don't like it when people like you know, like, oh no,
retrofit their
yeah,
fucking like
yeah,
transgressive thing as being progressive.
yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because wow, is it not progressive?
No, not at all. It's not.
I mean,
Listen, it's cool when somebody like I have this book that I can't wait to read called "It Came from the Closet," and it's people from the LGBTQ community talking about horror films and like what it means to them. And when someone from a certain community can see a film that like Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and like it can become a champion of this new thing by being owned by these new people and being used to celebrate something, that's great. But that doesn't mean the people who made it were trying to do that.
Yeah.
You
no,
can't,
no.
that's not cool, you know?
Yeah.
And we
Wait,
did
what
do
was
we
two?
did do an episode on Nightmare on Elm Street 2. That's the one with
That's
that
the one
was
with the
like
bus scene, right?
it's got a bus scene and it's like so like
Is
it's
that the one with
so
Corey
homoerotic.
Feldman in that one?
No. Nightmare on Elm Street. Corey Feldman is in the Friday the 13th franchise.
Oh shit. Okay, sorry.
So
Okay,
he's in part 4 and then
Yeah.
has a cameo in part 5.
Wow.
But Nightmare on Elm, there's a great documentary called Scream Queen, My Nightmare. It's the guy who starred in Nightmare 2. It ruined his career because he was not an openly gay actor because it was not okay to be openly gay.
sure.
And that it's like there all these straight guys wrote this script that was obviously had homosexual themes and undertones, but to this day are like had no clue. According to them, they had
Really?
no clue there was any of this happening in and it's you see it and you're just like, this is so
This is gayer than
obviously.
Top Gun.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going. I was like, I'm thinking of Top Gun in my head right now. Like,
But, man, I have not
all
seen
those
that
flight
since I was a
sequences
kid.
are very homoerotic.
There's nothing gayer than straight men spending time together.
Yeah, well, especially when they're topless, wearing jeans, playing volleyball. I mean,
Yeah.
So that's the you've got the brains and I've got the brains and you've got the body, right? Is that two? Or am I misremembering? Like Freddy's like,
yes.
I've got the brains and you've got the body.
Because it's a possession film. He's possessing.
I need to go back and watch that.
Jesse, I think it's the character's name. You should check it out and then check out my episode.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a plug,
Okay,
and we'll put links in the show notes for sure.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. We have extensive notes, so anybody
extensive notes. Yeah. So if you wanted someone to, is your primary means of putting the podcast out now on your YouTube channel?
No, that's sort of an experiment. We have like 8 or 9 episodes altogether that will be coming out, and it's like we got turned into cartoon characters, and you kind of get this. There's some crude animation and lots of like production stills and images that you get to see that go along with it. But our bread and butter is the podcast itself. Yeah.
Badass. Well, yeah.
If you do you have a favorite episode of yours?
Oh, I like so there is a
or maybe a movie that you enjoyed the most if you don't want to
Well, there's a Christmas staff meeting episode where you can hear me go from not liking Christmas and not like dealing with like depression and anxiety built around this holiday and childhood trauma, and you hear my friends talk me into
Christmas,
like to like let go of the cynical part of that and to participate into the tradition and the story as a community. So I really like it for that reason. And then, I would check out like Sleepaway Camp or Ginger Snaps or like any of our the YouTube stuff is really great and it's edited down a little bit. Our episodes run long. But
you're talking to guys who routinely record for 2.5 hours and cut an hour out. So
yeah.
But hey, Michelangelo, this was really awesome. Thank you for taking so much time to talk to us. This is
thank you for caring to want to talk to me about this experience I had many years ago.
It's awesome.
And Yeah, and we've talked a little bit about this, but we'll definitely be having you come on Unkind Rewind at some point too.
That would be great.
in the
That would be
near future.
amazing.
So yeah, that'll be fun, and that'll also be all about you, but in a totally different way. That's not about some relatively random thing that you did for a week once, fucking 13 years ago.
More about
Hey.
your traumatic childhood viewing habits.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those. You listen to the podcast, you really get to hear a lot about that. Oh boy.
And Munchies, they've done episodes. They did an episode on Warlock, and I feel like there was one other movie, but now I can't remember what it was that was germane to this podcast. Whatever, I can't remember. But yeah, the Warlock episode's super fun. So, cool. Well, again, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you to your wonderful fan base and your listeners. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And thank you, Greg, for connecting us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Kansas City Royals.
Yeah.
Josh's favorite baseball team.
That's a big eye roll. Could you hear it? Could you hear it, listener?
I'm just leaving that there.
The thing is, Josh is like a lifetime Royals fan who turned on the team, and now they're good again. It really burns him, and it's great. I love it. Now I'm a huge fan.
Whatever. Cool. Again, thanks for joining us, Michelangelo.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, guys, this is great. Keep on munching, guys.